Follow up on a previous question. How do you expect to work with Republicans if they won't even acknowledge you as president-elect?
They will. They will. Thank you all so very much. Thank you.
That was Joe Biden today giving an address about the Affordable Care Act. Took some questions from reporters at the end there. Let's chew over that and a little bit of what he said about the ACA with the few minutes we have left. Back with me, NBC News White House correspondent Kristen Welker and the former acting administrator of the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, Andy Slavitt. So, Kristen, hat tip to Mike Memoli for asking the question about his conversations with world leaders and what he's telling them about all of the turmoil in the United States. And he's saying America is back. He also gave a bit of a chuckle to the question about Mike Pompeo, saying that there will be a smooth transition into a second Trump administration. And he said there at the end that he's not worried about Republican lawmakers because they will eventually acknowledge that he is now the president-elect and will be sworn in on January 20th.
A lot of headlines. You're absolutely right. An important question from our Mike Memoli, and he said America is back in response to it. I also made note of the fact that you heard President-elect Biden on a number of different moments there reference his conversations with world leaders. Of course, that was part of his argument for the election and during the campaign. He said, look, we've got to restore these relationships with some of our critical allies. And so you heard him really try to underscore the fact that he has started that process. I also thought the other part of this press conference, Katie, that was really noteworthy and newsworthy was that you heard Biden say, look, we are moving forward with this transition. Yes, the GSA has not officially signed off on this, but we're moving forward. We're not going to be deterred. And he also seemed to not rule out legal action, but it doesn't seem like they're pursuing that at this juncture. So it doesn't mean that it's been taken off the table completely, but I did think that was notable. I also made note of the fact, Katie, as you did, that he ultimately said they will, at the end, referring to Republicans, expressing confidence that ultimately they will get on board and work with him. And you heard him talk about Leader McConnell within that context as it relates to some of his upcoming cabinet choices. So clearly he believes this is an interim moment and ultimately it is going to pass. But look, his aides have been saying for quite some time to me, Katie, his biggest challenge is going to be to unify this very fractured country. And you hear him there in real time really wrestling with that, Katie, and knowing that that continues to be at the top of his agenda.
And there's this news from a local Arizona paper that the president's legal team is challenging a grand total of 180 ballots in Arizona. Right now, Joe Biden leads in Arizona by 14,746 votes. So even if he does win on all of those ballots, that lead is still very large. Clearly, Joe Biden feels confident in the outcome of the election. Andy, with our final question, I just want to go back to something you were saying a little bit earlier about what Joe Biden can do on his own without the help of Congress in order to shore up the Affordable Care Act. Go back to that. If he doesn't have a Democratic Senate on his side, and those two Georgia runoff races will decide that in January, what can he do that doesn't need Republican approval?
Well, I think he's going to have to assume that that's likely where he's going to be and that the Senate is not going to be as friendly as he needs him to be. I think there's a few places to start. The first is to send messages to the states that Medicaid expansion, not with work requirements, but good old Medicaid expansion is the best thing they can do for their states. It's the best way to get money to the states. They don't need to go back to Congress, and it's a high priority. From a regulatory standpoint, the Trump administration put up every hurdle possible to make the ACA less accessible to people. So I think they'll declare open enrollment periods so people will be able to get access to insurance now that we're in the middle of this crisis. I think they will take the kind of steps to make sure that we start making Americans more aware. And then all of the rights. HHS has done a lot to say that if you're trans American or if you're in certain groups that it is okay to discriminate against you. I think all those things will go very quickly. So he's not going to take, what I saw in that press conference is he's not going to take the bait that Trump and the Republicans are offering to pick a fight. I think he's going to be businesslike. try to compromise where he can, but know that he's got a lot of the levers of government right in front of him.
And he spoke directly to the American public. He said, we are going to do everything we can to ease the burden of health care on you and your family. Striking. I was doing my open enrollment yesterday, and I found it just hard to fathom that I had to sit there and predict whether I would get into a not quite deadly car accident in my near future and have to guess what sort of life insurance or what sort of disability insurance I might need. Healthcare is a difficult thing for millions of for all of us, frankly, even when you have good health care. So I think everyone's certainly concerned about that now. Kristen Welker. Slavitt. Thanks, guys, so much. We appreciate it. And that's going to do it for me today. Eamon Moyadeen picks up our coverage in a moment. But just note this. We talk every day at the end of the show about masks and how you should wear them to protect others. Anthony Fauci today talked about some research that shows that masks protect you as well. So protect yourself and protect others. If you're staying inside, though, Eamon Moyadeen is up right now. Eamon, I almost said that you're coming up after the break, but here you are.
It's been one of those busy news days, so we're going to pick it up right now.